Hi, Amanda.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Okay, I'm
Hi.
just starting. Here it goes.
There you are. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
So I'm just going to dive right in and ask you, what was your reason for wanting to ditch the sugar?
I did a 12-week challenge, and part of the challenge was no sugar. And that initially was daunting to me, but I figured it was 12 weeks, I could do it, and it was something that I really wanted to be able to cut my cravings. So that was initially, it started from a challenge.
Great. So how long have you been sugar-free now?
Middle of May, so I'm going on, 3.5 months,
Great.
4 months, 3.5 months.
Oh wow, congratulations. That's terrific.
Thanks.
So can you talk me through some of the steps you took? I guess most of them were probably to do with the challenge. You were probably following some guidelines, but can you talk to me a
Yep.
little bit about those guidelines and how you managed to quit the sugar over that time?
I quit all refined sugar, so I could still have honey and maple syrup and coconut sugar. And so prior to starting the challenge, I started to cut some of my sugar intake, and I started to replace some things like my creamer in my coffee, and removing the sugar from my coffee. So I took a couple of those steps before it was cold turkey,
Mm-hmm.
and I try to, with the maple syrup and honey, kind of keep that to just towards the weekends. So if I'm making a dessert and it has the maple syrup and honey, it's not on an everyday basis. And that's where I've kept it. So it has seemed to manage pretty well, and I wanted to really not go as long as possible so I wasn't hitting those cravings every single day just because I could have maple syrup and honey. So I wanted to kind of eliminate that as much as possible.
Right. Yeah. So along the way, what sort of hurdles or blocks or difficult spots, spells did you come across? What sort of things did you, have to overcome to quit the sugar? And how did you do
Um,
that as well?
I think my hardest thing was my family gave me a hard time, and I was really guilty. While I didn't eat a lot and I wasn't a horrible eater before, I really, kept some of that at bay. I was really guilty of maybe just after every meal grabbing like a couple chocolate chips or just something sweet. So it was really getting over that. When you have a meal, you then want to follow it up with something sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably my biggest hurdle because I had cut out a lot of junk, just over the years anyway. So I probably was not as bad as your average person going cold turkey, no sugar. So I didn't notice that, but it was the constant cravings for something sweet after a mealtime. And I really tried to not even fill that with fruit. So I wasn't even feeding that I want something sweet. I was trying to completely stay away from that. That was probably my biggest challenge, I think,
Mm-hmm.
was just,
So
or at
reflecting.
nighttime. And I couldn't eat after 8 o'clock.
Okay.
So, and I was guilty of putting my kids to bed and then just snacking. So, and that's usually when most people, eat most of their sweets, is especially in the evening. So that was hard as well.
Yeah. Sure. So on reflection, what did you do around those cravings? Did you, eat something else, or did you find that if you changed your intake of, extra protein during the day, or was there any strategies that you found worked to eliminate those cravings for sweet after dinner? Because I know that's a common one for a lot of people. They really want to have that dessert. And I know some, tips and tricks to fix that craving at the end, but I'd love to hear how you tackled that.
Let's see. So I found desserts and stuff I could make with maple syrup and honey. I've tried to make that just once a week. So when the dessert was gone, it was gone. Usually I had something in the evenings lots of times, because the challenge had 6 small meals. So I had to have something after dinner before my 8 p.m. cutoff in order to get my last meal in. So usually I might have like carrot sticks with peanut butter, or I would have a piece of fruit if I hadn't really had much fruit that day. After 8 p.m. to help with my cravings, and I still do this, I drink herbal tea. So I have a huge assortment of teas, and I just, you can get the fruit ones, or I usually just pick an herbal tea, and that really, anything, and usually it's just wanting something that's not water. And so that's probably my biggest, having tea after 8 was my biggest thing. And that was something that even in the past when I tried to cut my eating at night, that was something that I had always done. So I reverted back to that. I cut my coffee at night and I reverted back to the tea.
Sure.
So
I'd like to actually ask you, going back to your reason for quitting, ditching the sugar. You said it was part of a challenge. What provoked you to, or what was your incentive to start the challenge? Did you want to lose weight or more energy, or what? This challenge came up and you thought how that would help you in what way?
Yeah, I wanted to be a coach for the challenge, and which required me to participate in the challenge. I didn't necessarily need to lose weight. I wanted to tone and define more, which I knew that would mean honing in on my diet even more, and really, making some of those major changes that I had just kind of laid off to the side. And probably sugar was the biggest one. That's one that I think, sometimes until you cut it out, you don't realize what it's in and how much you're consuming, even if you aren't consuming very much.
Yeah.
So that was probably wanting to coach, but then also make those nutrition changes myself.
Yeah, great. So now that leads me to my next question. What have you found the biggest, the best benefits of ditching the sugar? What changes have you noticed?
I'm not craving it. I've only had sugar, non honey and maple syrup one time since. And while the dessert was good, it wasn't like great. And so that's what I have really found is even when I am making something myself, it doesn't need to be as sweet as it really was before. So I've really been able to, even with the amount of honey and maple syrup that I've used in things, I'm really cutting back on the amount of sweetener. And so that has been, I don't have huge cravings. And I can have just one, and it's like, oh, that's okay. I don't feel like I want to just sit there and eat it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's great.
That's really good.
Yeah, that's great. I really identify with that too, with all the changes I've made in my diet over the last couple of years. I was a sugar, I loved sugar. I mean, healthy sugars mostly, and when I was growing up, I ate a lot of sugar. I would eat a small meal just to get to dessert because it was like my favorite. And now I'm really surprised. I might buy, a tub of coconut yogurt, and it sits there for ages. I just don't feel inclined to have it, whereas before it might last 2 or 3 days, just as the more you give it up and the more nutritionally sound your body becomes, you just naturally sort of sway. And in some of the, healthy snack bars that I was eating that did have sugar in them, I find them to be really sweet as well now. So yeah, that's really good. It's a really good benefit. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you answering a few questions for the ladies and giving them some insights on ditching the sugar. And I'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Good luck with everything.
Thanks, Amanda.